My job is to manage the staffing, the programs, and convert the policies of the board in a good way. Our market is just extraordinarily expensive. We're routinely in the top 15 most expensive markets in the country. I mean, that's considering places like New York or Southern California. So that, I think, is a real challenge. I mean, we've spent a lot of time talking about it. The city, to their credit, is fully engaged in trying to figure out what can be done, but it's a really expensive market, and that means for a low-income family, that really reduces your odds of being able to stay in Cambridge. We've made a really focused effort to put as much new spending into these properties to keep these units in place, because we recognize if we don't invest in these units, the market would just sweep them away. And we don't want that to happen. We want low-income families to have the option to live here too. The idea is if you looked at two buildings and one was ours and one was privately owned, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. We're not talking about luxury units, but we're talking about units that are very nice and have space. A lot of the units have washer-dryer hookups, which if you look for an apartment in Cambridge is hard to find. You're in a market where we'd love to buy your property and maybe convert it or rebuild it for low-income families. Yeah, but you now have someone else saying, well, hey, I can put lab space on that, or I can build condos for some of the higher-end employees that are going to be living here. So that competitive market makes it very difficult for the city, for us, and for other housing providers to really stay competitive. In a simple supply and demand, we have much higher demand than units available. You know, we have several thousands of units for public housing, but probably 1.5 times that many people who want to get into public housing. Look and say, well, gee, you got 3,000 families, you're taking 100. I mean, it's a very tiny number. Maybe when we're done construction in 4 to 5 years, we'd be back up to around 250, 300 families a year. I think the fundamental problem is, though, we are in a market that's just so hot in terms of its costs that it's rapidly outstripping not just our families, but even a lot of middle-class families are going to find it difficult to stay in this market. Families who've worked here or been here for a long time are going to find it difficult. Building housing or adding units is another one, but that too has a cost and a resource demand. You know, it'd be easy to say, well, just provide us with more money, but that would be helpful, but that's not the only piece of this equation. There's other things we'd have to deal with in some way.